and get going here. There we go. And I wonder if there's a way. Somebody asked if I could. Andrea asked if I could save the chat. Um, I don't know. I think it hopefully will save. I'm not sure how to do that. Okay. So I'm gonna mute everybody. Sweet. All right, cool. Well, oh, I'm gonna change my name. Welcome everybody. I don't know if any of you caught my little I popped in on Facebook Live in the group last week on Friday. I had some I just finished talking to an artist and a good friend of mine, and she was kind of struggling a little bit, and sometimes we all just need that little just that little boost of encouragement. So if you haven't watched that, definitely go check it out in the group. And hey, Ari, hi all, Ari to Ari. Cool. So this month, what I'm going to talk about tonight, I'm going to dig into royalties. What they are, how to get them, everywhere you can get them from around the world, even if you're not US based. I know that Sem asked me to just clarify for people as well who are outside of the US, because I know we have quite a few of those. So I'm going to do that, but I want this to be more of a conversation. So if you do have any questions, at any point, feel free to write in the chat box or raise your hand on this thing here. If you don't know how to raise your hand, ask somebody in the chat box, not actually physically raising it, but there's like a little raise hand thing and I'll see it pop up here. So we'll do that. So what I want to actually start with, and I'm going to pull up a couple articles that we're going to kind of reference and I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to share my screen for some of these. Because I kind of want to, let me see here. I want to just kind of go into it. So, some music business news that's happening right now. Spotify is going public tomorrow. So there's been a lot of talk about Spotify in the news. The New York Times just wrote about it. CNBC said something. If you know, I talk about Wolfpack all the time, but you should go watch Jack Stratton of Wolfpack's interview on CNBC. I'll post a link to it. Actually, it was one of the most hilarious interviews I've ever seen because he's totally fucking with them, and he's just trolling CNBC. He's a really smart dude, and we actually just had dinner last week, and we had a full-on Spotify conversation. And he's like, you know, we were really digging deep into everything. And then they asked him to come on CNBC live television. And I'm sure in the pre-interview, he showed how educated and learned he is and how smart he is, because he is. And if for those of you who don't know, Wolfpack is a funk band originally from Ann Arbor, now in LA, but they kind of initially got on the national scene for their Sleepify album, which was like they put up 30 seconds. Basically, they gamed the Spotify system. They put up second silent tracks, and they asked all their fans to listen to their album on repeat while they slept, and they called it Sleepify. And the band actually made $20,000 on Spotify from this silent album before Spotify took down the album, and they like claimed it was against their terms of service. So this was like 4 years ago, and every news article on the planet or news publication seemed to write about this. And that's how I first discovered them. I didn't know who they were before this, and I looked into it, and they're actually one of my favorite bands now musically. Their actual recorded albums, but it was a hilarious stunt. It was great. But this whole band, I mean, it's led by Jack. They don't take anything that seriously or themselves that very seriously. And so this whole interview that Jack gave this morning on live national television on CNBC was him just messing with the host, just saying a lot of gibberish. He's like, well, there are, if 100 pennies are in a dollar, there's 100 pities in a penny. And, we only get about 60 of those from every play, 60 pities. And it just like went on, and it was pretty hilarious. So I recommend you go watch it. Actually, let me grab that link and I'll just paste it right here so you can just have it and save it for later. But it was the funniest thing that I have seen in a long time. And yeah, okay. So there's a link. Anyway, watch that later. And all right, what I want to show you, I don't know if you saw this New York Times article on Spotify. It came out a couple of days ago. I'm going to share my screen. Let's do this one. Okay. Okay, you can see this, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so this is the article. After driving streaming music's rise, Spotify aims to cash in. And basically, it just kind of talks about Spotify and their history and valuation, blah, 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 blah. But this chart actually I thought was really interesting because it actually lays out how royalties are broken down from Spotify in a very visual way that's actually pretty accurate. What bugs me the most is when non-music publications kind of get the entire royalty and sales discussion completely wrong and they just don't really understand what they're talking about. The New York Times kind of got it pretty right here. And so I wanted to just kind of show you what this is, and then we're going to use this as a launching off point, and then I'm going to kind of dig into this other article that I wrote too. Let me pull up the chat just in case I can't see it. It just disappeared. Where is it? There it is. Okay, cool. So, okay. So this is showing, from what Spotify is claiming is that 90 cents, here we go, how $1 flows from Spotify to recording artists. Each song streamed on Spotify is worth a fraction of a cent, and the ultimate payday for artists is as dependent on their record deal as on their stream count. This summary, based on figures from 2016, examines the path of a hypothetical dollar as it makes its way from three types of artists. So what they're showing here is that 90% of the revenue that Spotify makes is from subscription revenue, so from people buying or paying for a monthly subscription on Spotify. And so what's interesting is that actually if you get every stream on Spotify is not treated equally. So if it's very dependent on who streams the song. So if a paying subscriber streams your song, you're actually going to make more money than if a free subscriber streams your song. Meaning that if someone is not paying for a subscription and listening to Spotify using it just with ads, you actually make less money from their stream than you do from a paying subscriber stream. So that's interesting to note too. And streams from various countries pay differently. So a stream from the US actually pays more than a stream from Venezuela or something like that, just because of how it's broken down and how they're paying for their subscription and everything like that. So anyway, okay. So here it goes down. It says 90 cents is from subscription revenue. 10% comes from advertising. Spotify. So this first one is from a major label artist, and then what is it showing? But we can kind of, I mean, you can look at this later. I'll just go through it. Spotify keeps 29 cents of the dollar. And then, this is consistent whether you're a major independent or self-released artist. Spotify is actually paying out, like this says, over 70%, so 71%. And I've actually heard it's a little bit more because of based on the label's equity that they own from it. But anyway, just per stream, basically, they're paying out over 71% of their revenue. And so that's something like, you know, when people discuss streaming rates and everything and how, like, you know, this rate should be higher, I think the calculations on streaming could be different. But the fact of the matter is Spotify and Apple Music are both paying out about 70%. And as you know, on an iTunes download, that's the same thing. Apple keeps 30 cents from a $1 download. So anyway, it's basically the same here. Okay, Spotify keeps 29 cents. 59 cents goes to the label in this first example here. And the label keeps, I mean, this is basically saying about 50 cents and sends over this 9 cents left to the artist. And then down here below it, the publisher, 6 cents is passed through to the publisher and 6 cents is passed through performance royalties. And how they're doing this is 6 cents from the publisher is paid out based on their deal to the artist or songwriter, really, but they just call it artist. And then of the performance royalties, 3 cents gets passed to the artist, and 3 cents because PRO split that equally 50-50. So 3 cents goes to the songwriter and 3 cents goes to the publisher. So they're calling this artist. So that's actually kind of like us. If we write our own music and we're the artist, they're just kind of putting it under the whole artist umbrella. That's major label artists because labels take a good portion of that. So typically, I think this is based on where the artist has like an 18% royalty deal, meaning the label is keeping 82%. All right, so in indie label, similar kind of thing, except the label, instead of keeping 50 cents, is keeping 29 cents. And this is based on a lot of indie labels are splitting it 50-50 with their artist. And that's a pretty typical deal these days. And if anyone is talking to indie labels, I wouldn't sign anything that isn't a 50-50 deal, or at least a 50-50 deal. Some are actually giving artists even more. But that's kind of how this works here. And they're saying they'd have a higher publisher royalty. And then here's where most of us fall into, the self-releasing artist. So they're saying, now this is what's interesting. Now they clarify that the breakdown is slightly different because they say the distributor keeps 6 cents, which some do and some don't. If you will go through DistroKid or TuneCore, they're not keeping, or Symphonic, they don't keep anything. Whereas CD Baby keeps 9%, AWOL keeps 15%. So when we're looking at the what's left over here, the 59 cents, that's what they're saying is the distributor keeps the 6 cents. Then the pass is basically the rest of the artist, and then there's the what they're saying, if there's no publisher, this is kind of how this works here. And performance royalties, similarly, half and half go to the artist, or they're actually saying that all of it goes to the artist, but they're splitting a little bit differently. Instead of 6 cents, they're saying 3, or 5 rather. So, and they did note here, and I don't know if you guys saw the article I wrote about how songwriters got a raise. I know we talked about that a little bit, but basically they're saying, note, after these figures were compiled, a regulatory decision and new licensing deals are reached, which could change this breakdown slightly, meaning this, this publisher money here, this amount is going to go up. So per stream, there's no per stream rate, but basically they break down the percentage of what the songwriter / publisher makes per stream is going up over the next 5 years. So it's the first time in decades that this number has changed. And so artists are going to actually make, or songwriters, I should say, and publishers are going to make more money than they have. Okay. So this is just an interesting visual breakdown that, yes, and this is what it shows, it's highly weighted on the artist versus the songwriter. So if you look at these two streams down here are the songwriter royalties, and this is the artist royalties, you can see that artists, the recording artists, are making a much larger chunk than the songwriters do from streams or from downloads. It's the same thing with sales, and that's how it's always been. And that's what this new law or decision rather aimed to change and to fix. And that was what the songwriters got a raise was. It was these mechanical royalties are finally going up, and it's not quite a 50-50 split like I think it should be. Like these numbers I think should be equal, 50% to the artist and 50% to the songwriter. That's kind of how it works when you get something synced on TV. But, you know, we're getting closer to that point. And so that's just what this is. So if you want to read this article, it's an interesting article. I'm going to post this in the chat. Okay. And now I want to show you, it's down. Can you see this new article, or are we on the same one? Did it change? I can't tell what you're looking at right now. Like, let me see, news share. Actually, this might be. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can see this. Okay. Christine, so is this how we will see the splits moving forward? So, okay, let's, great question. I'm going to break this down. So basically, just to answer your question here, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper. Actually, I'll go back to this just so you can see this. Okay, so this bulk amount, this 53 cents that's coming to the artist, or it's going to fluctuate. It's going to be anywhere from 53 to 61 cents based on this, what your distributor keeps. That's what you see from your distributor. So whoever you use, DistroKid, Symphonic, CD Baby, whoever you use, that's the number this big number here is what you're going to get paid from your distributor. Now, these publishing royalties down here, this top number is the mechanical royalty. They don't say mechanical because it's just, they don't want to have to explain what mechanicals are. But that's like what this publisher number is, because you get your mechanical royalties from the publisher, and then there's performance royalties. And you get your performance royalties from your PRO. So ASCAP, BMI, in Canada, it's SOCAN, in the UK, you know, it's PRS, and all over the world. Every country has their own PRO, and that's performance royalties. Now, how you get these mechanical royalties, this is, now to get these mechanical royalties, you have to have either a publisher or an admin publisher, like a Song Trust, CD Baby Pro, TuneCore Publishing, Cobalt, something like that. They collect mechanical royalties. Okay, so now I want to actually break down, and so to answer your question, Christina, you're only going to see if you're working with just a distributor who doesn't also have an admin publishing arm. I know that a lot of you are with CD Baby and use CD Baby Pro Publishing as well. If you use CD Baby Pro Publishing, you're going to get all of this from CD Baby Pro, except the performance royalties. You'll still get paid directly from your PRO. Because the publisher, so what CD Baby Pro Publishing is doing is they're collecting your sales royalties just like any other distributor, but then they also have another publishing side, which is totally, it's confusing because it's all under the CD Baby umbrella, and you know, they do it so you don't have to think too hard about it, but just so we understand, you know, they're collecting your streaming royalties for the sound recording, and like every other distributor does, but also they have this publishing arm that's collecting the mechanical royalties, and they link up with your PRO to collect your performance royalties. However, like every other publisher in the world, PROs only allow these publishers to collect the publisher split. So ASCAP, BMI, CSEC, SOCAN, what they do is they collect all performance royalties, and then they cut it in half. And they say half's going to the publisher, and half is going to the songwriter. And they actually write checks directly to their songwriters because they want to make sure that the songwriters get paid for the performance royalties regardless of what their deal is with their publishing company. That's why they do it this way. So the publisher, so if you're with a CD Baby Pro or a Song Trust or a TuneCore Publishing, what will happen is the PRO will send that 50% to your publishing company, and then they'll take their cut. So CD Baby Pro, Song Trust, they take 15%. So they'll take their 15% and then send the rest back to you that way through however they pay you. And then you'll also receive a separate check as the songwriter directly from your PRO. Okay, So let me dig into, if you need anything clarified, just let me know. Okay. Let me see here.
I think you're about to explain this question based off the tab I see, but is Sound Exchange and Song Trust, are they similar at all or no?
Good question. No, not at all. All right, I'm going to dig into it. Here we go. All right, buckle up. Julianne, if you're listed as a publisher with a PRO, does that get you those publisher royalties? So basically, vanity publisher, exactly. So here's how it works in the States with the U.S. performing rights organization. So with ASCAP, they require you to, ASCAP requires you to register a vanity publishing company if you don't have a publisher. So when I first signed up with ASCAP, I'm with ASCAP, I created my own vanity publishing company. That just means a publishing company that's not like real. It's just a name I created. And I registered it with ASCAP just so I could get paid those publisher royalties. If you don't do this with ASCAP, you don't get that 50% of those royalties. BMI is different. BMI, you don't need to register a vanity publishing company. They will pay you those royalties directly. So with BMI, you can just register as a songwriter and say, I own my publishing, and they'll just pay you all of that directly. Now, with an admin publishing company, they basically take that role as the publisher, and they don't own your stuff, so you can designate in the back end saying that they are your administrator. And so they're the administrator, so they pay them. Okay, so let's dig in. So this is this article that I wrote a couple of years ago. And I've since updated it as things change. And this is also chapter 13 in my book. There's a bit of this in that chapter where I talk about royalties. But I wanted to have a conversation about this and break this down as we're talking through it all because it's very confusing. Okay. So basically, yes, this is this article, and I'm going to link to this article so you can find it later. But it's also on Ari's Take, and you can just search Sound Exchange or something like that. Okay. So let's see. Okay. This is a good place for us to start. And at any point, if you have questions, again, raise your hand in the thing or write in the comments here. Okay. So how we're going to talk about this is there are artists and there are songwriters. And most of us are both, but you have to think of them as two completely separate entities. And I know some of you are just producers and not artists. And some of you are just songwriters and not artists, meaning that you're writing songs with other people and other artists cut it. So that's why you have to think about that these are two completely separate things, and there's royalties for artists and there are royalties for songwriters, and oftentimes they don't overlap. So they're separate. So you have to think about them completely separate. So if you're both, you have to chop yourself in half and be like, I'm the artist over here, I'm the songwriter over here, totally separate. Okay. So, and similarly, sound recording is the actual recording, but you record a composition. That's the composition. That's the song underneath the recording. So, I say some call this the master, is the sound recording, and the composition is the composition. So, let's say I do an example. Let's say Christina and I write a song together, and then Julianne is the artist who released it, and then let's say we write the song, Julianne is the artist who records our song and puts it out. So Christina and I are the songwriters, and we own the composition. We wrote the song, we're the songwriters. Now, Julianne records this composition. Now she owns the sound recording, and she is the artist. I'm not the artist. Christine's not the artist, even though we are artists and we have our own other thing. We're not the artists in this scenario. We are the songwriters. That's totally separate. And we own the composition. We don't own the sound recording. Even though she's recording our composition, we don't own that sound recording, only the artist. So even on a bigger scale, let's say you decide to record a Taylor Swift song. You still own that recording, even though Taylor Swift may have written a song, or Taylor Swift and 3 other co-writers wrote the song. You still own the recording because it's your recording. Okay. PRO, we just covered. That's Performing Rights Organizations, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC. And just so we have understanding, digital distribution company, we know what those are. CD Baby, DistroKid, TuneCore, Symphonic, AWOL, that kind of stuff. We're not going to talk about, I mean, Harry, we don't need to dig in. That's just confusing. Okay, we dug into what admin publishing companies are. And let's see here. Sam says, we did record a Taylor Swift song and it's been played 6 million times on YouTube, but never registered the song, so didn't get a penny for any of that. That's a bummer. Now, the thing is that, okay, in that scenario, now, video and audio are treated very differently. So when you want to release, this is, okay, this is actually a good place for us here. Sync licensing. Now, most of us know what sync licensing is. That's what half this entire course is about. What sync actually stands for is synchronization. Meaning you're like synchronizing audio to the visuals, audio to picture. That's a totally different license than just the license to record a cover. So if you want to record a cover song and release it, super easy. You don't actually need permission. You just need to get a mechanical license. Most distributors are doing this for you these days. Some don't, and you have to go hunt it down. And you have to go kind of hunt that down. And now, if you want to put that, if you want to do a video cover, that's different because technically you need to get a sync license. So just like we're trying to get our songs cut, some of us are trying to get our songs cut, synced rather, on TV shows or commercials or movies. We want to get it synced and get paid that upfront sync license, which we talk about. It works the same way for any kind of video, whether it's a commercial on TV, a movie, even down to YouTube. Now, technically, that's what the law says. Now, it's worth noting that because of YouTube and now Facebook and Instagram, it is totally inconceivable and improbable, and it just doesn't work to require these creators to try to get a sync license from the publisher for a song you want to pop up, a video you want to put on YouTube. So like your Taylor Swift cover, there's no way to negotiate that with Taylor Swift's publishing company. There are literally hundreds of thousands of people recording Taylor Swift cover videos. They don't have the manpower to negotiate this. So what YouTube did many years ago, and Facebook just did this, is they sign deals with publishers saying, okay, here's the deal. Allow us to basically put these videos up of your songs that you own, and we'll do this. We will, through our technology, notify you, the publisher, when we catch a video with your song in it, and we'll give you a few options. We'll give you the option to either pop an ad on it and start making money from it, or take it down. And you have that choice because you're the publisher and you own that song. Now, YouTube has since launched a way for you to make money. So Sam, this is for you. You can actually, as the creator, you can split the ad revenue with the publisher. So the publisher is still entitled to their composition royalties. However, you are entitled to some ad revenue as the artist because you own that sound recording and you actually own that video because you made that video, and there's some royalties there too. So it's not, when we're talking about video, there's different rights like the sync license you need, but there's also more money because you made this video. So YouTube does this directly. Also, We Are the Hits is a company that will help you clear this stuff. I've talked about them a little bit before. This is, oh shoot, I wanted to send you to the website. Here we are. We Are the Hits will do this for you. You can look it up, you can check it, and they make getting you paid very easy. So you guys can check that out. YouTube, if you want to be an official partner of YouTube and you go through the whole system of getting registered with ad revenue and everything like that, they'll pay you for covers as well. However, I know some of you mentioned this in the group. YouTube has changed their partner program. So only video creators who have at least, I think it was 4,000 minutes or hours or something of video in the last, like 4,000 hours watched in the last 6 months or something like that, and at least 1,000 subscribers is now able to earn from YouTube's ad revenue. So they put these restrictions on now. And so actually we can look this up. Thank you. 10,000 minutes. Thank you. Okay, good. That was way off. 10,000 minutes in the past 30 days. Let's see. Partner program. Let's see what they say here. Here we go. No. Okay, here we go. Clarifying. It is 4,000. 4,000 watch hours in the previous 12 months and 1,000 subscribers. That's what it has to be. 4,000 watch hours in the previous 12 months and 1,000 subscribers to join this program. Okay. And it says if you meet the new threshold, then you can be a partner. Okay. So now if you want to earn from this, the best option now is to, if you want to, just say Sam, if you want to earn from your cover video and anyone else who's going to put up a cover video, I recommend going through We Are the Hits, and they will help you get paid for this because they have deals with all the major publishers, most of the indie publishers, and with YouTube, enabling them to place their ads and do that. Now, Sam, on a song that's already on YouTube, We Are the Hits can't help you there. But actually, I don't think, maybe they can if you ask them. It's been up for years. Probably not. I mean, We Are the Hits is basically, you have to do it before you upload it. They may help you with this. Now, some of the distributors have their own YouTube a partner program where they will help you track down royalties for your songs and for your recordings. So you can opt into that through your distributor. Some of the admin publishing companies, you can opt into this so they can kind of collect that. But admin publishing wouldn't help you here because you didn't write the song. So if you now, again, or if you didn't actually distribute this recording, it was just like a live video or something like that, that's different. I know Carrie mentioned Audium. Now, Audium has kind of pivoted. They used to collect they started as just a YouTube collections company, and they helped you monetize your YouTube things. Now they're focusing more on mechanical royalties. So they're kind of a hybrid. They're not quite an admin publishing company because they don't touch performance royalties. They're only really collecting mechanical royalties. However, they don't collect overseas mechanicals, so it's but they do a really good job of collecting U.S. and Canadian royalties. And Audium still has YouTube services, but I know, not Audible, Audium. I just hit up Jeff Price to ask him what they're doing now, because they continue to pivot on what they're working on. But they're mostly looking at working with publishers and songwriters. So yeah, see, now they're calling it Mechanical Royalty Collection Agency. And so they're mostly just focusing on publishing these days and songwriting. And they still have their legacy YouTube collections program, but I don't think they're really focusing on that as much anymore like they used to. So if we just search, oh, here we go, YouTube topics. And how do I get my money? Do you use copyright notice on YouTube channel? What sort of content is eligible for YouTube's content ID? Ineligible. Yeah, so Sam, to get these back money, it's there, I would talk to, I guess, Sam, do you have a distributor that you use, that you have a relationship with?
Distributor in like what sense of the? So this, so what it was I knew someone that snuck us Taylor Swift's album before it came out. So I just listened to it, and I'm like, I wonder which one of these songs is going to be popular. And I just took a stab in the dark, and we tracked it, and we put out a video the day that Taylor Swift's album came out. So we literally had a cover video up the same day. But what ended up happening was, over time, and I didn't even recognize it until one day I was clicking through YouTube and I saw a video that was the same cover song. No, it was a girl who had made a video to look like the real Taylor Swift video of that song. And I clicked on it and I sat there and I thought, oh wow, Taylor Swift made a video of that song. And I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden my wife's voice comes in, and it had like millions of views, millions. And then since then, like there are tons of people that have ripped off. So she ripped the audio off of my video and made a new video, and it has millions of views. And then other people started ripping the audio off of her video and making new videos. So there's, I don't even know, I'm sure it's over 6 or 7 million, but I have no idea I mean, it's something we did. My YouTube channel is monetized. So I've gotten some money, and actually I'm kind of surprised. So I don't get as much per play as I do on videos that are me talking about something music or something like that. So definitely Taylor Swift's getting some of that somehow, but still I've made, I don't know, a couple $100 off of 800,000 plays. But the girl who originally ripped it off is down in South America, because I messaged her and I said, hey, I realize you ripped the audio off my video and you're tricking everyone and think this is a Taylor Swift song. I said, at least if you're going to do anything, can you just put my wife's name on there so that when people read it, it's like saying at least who the singer is. And she did that. Right. I know she's making money. She's making money off of it because she got ads at the beginning of it, but I don't know how to get that back from her.
She might not be making money off of that, to be honest, because Taylor Swift's publishing company might be making money off of that, because they are able to track down. They have their publishing companies actually go through YouTube and find every cover song that's out there, and they tell YouTube to place an ad on it. And there's like Content ID is now getting really smart about this kind of stuff. So how you could get it, no matter if the video's on your channel or not, is why I asked you who your distributor is because most distributors have a Content ID system, I guess, a platform that they use. And what they'll do is, through YouTube's Content ID, is any video that's ever been uploaded with the sound recording that you own. So you did this cover song, you own that sound recording. Any video in all of YouTube that has your sound recording, you can get paid from, whether it's on your channel or not. So that's why it can be really helpful to sign up with either an independent YouTube content ID company. So Audium used to do that. Now they don't as much. But there's a few others out there like Indie Music and AdRev. But the best way to go through it is through your distributor, like CD Baby, DistroKid, whatever. They will sign you up for their Content ID program. You upload your that audio, and then they ingest it into the Content ID, and then they crawl all of YouTube to find where this sound recording is. So,
my only question would be, it's kind of like all old news and water under the bridge. So if I did that, does it work retroactive? Would it actually, so if this girl has, has made some money off of it, there's no way they can, it would just be from here on out that it would be collecting that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why We Are the Hits. Yeah, it's here on out. That's why We Are the Hits wants you to do it before you upload it, or they'll only work with you if you do it before you upload it. So, learning situation, that's, fine. And honestly, all these people who uploaded these Facebook videos up until recently, well, still actually, it was, you weren't allowed to upload Facebook videos. And that's why we saw over the last few years, and I know this happened to some people, your videos got removed from Facebook because Facebook didn't have the licenses with publishers like YouTube does. Now Facebook has signed all these the deals with all the publishers, and they're going to start putting ads on Facebook videos. I'm sure you've seen this on some of them, but that's what's going to happen now. So Facebook is doing the same thing that YouTube is doing now, so that's coming in. And it's if you're going to do cover videos in the future, I recommend, if you want to get paid from it and think that you might get millions of views, something like that, like registering that with your distributor or whoever's running your Content ID, and potentially We Are the Hits. They're probably going to work with Facebook in the future. They currently only work with YouTube, I think, still. Where do they go? Actually, I'm curious to know if they've changed it. But basically, yeah. So this is just, what do they say? Yeah, I think it's still just YouTube. But they're probably, YouTube and other streaming platforms. So yeah, they might help you with other ones too. All right. So Chelsea asks, what about STEM? Have you heard anything about them? Yes, STEM is another digital distributor. They're on my chart. So on my distributor breakdown chart, STEM is one of them I reviewed. They're a great company. I talked about STEM here, and they're great. They're personalized. They are submission-based. They don't take everybody. So they're kind of like AWOL. You have to apply. If you get accepted, then they take 5%. You keep the rest, but they have playlist plugging services. However, as of now, they don't distribute covers. So if you are releasing covers, STEM is not the company for you. And for YouTube, they collect US YouTube mechanicals. So like actually the songwriter royalty that you'll get from YouTube in the US, which is unique to them. But for their YouTube partner program, I'm not sure about that. You'll want to ask them. I don't think they've been doing that. Okay. Sam, Facebook, will there be a way for artists to monetize these videos like you can on YouTube? Eventually, yes, but it's that's not here yet. So currently on Facebook, no indie artist is really making money from this yet, unless you have a Facebook Watch account. Facebook Watch, let's do, I think it's invite only still. Sign up for Facebook Watch. I don't think you can do this yet. It's like they're creating their own network here. and it's creating shows. So you have to actually partner officially with Facebook. And that's kind of how you'll get the branded content and stuff like that. But for now, there's no way to really do that. But it's coming. So I'll let you know when we find out about that. Okay. Is it legal now to upload cover videos to Facebook? I mean, yes and no. They've technically signed these deals with all the publishers, but it's you'll let's say you'll be safe now if you upload videos, cover videos to Facebook, whereas before you weren't safe. They may start placing ads on it, but they've stopped ripping them down and blocking people from their Facebook pages like they used to do. And I believe they've signed with all the major licensed publishers. I think they've signed with all of them. Was Sony the last holdout? I thought Warner was the last holdout. They did Sony ATV. Trying to see if they've done all the publishers. But basically, oh yeah, here we go. Yes, March 9th. Okay, so 1 month ago, less than a month ago, they finally signed with Warner. And so now they have Warner, UMG, and Sony. So the three major publishers. And so you should be fine now. And you can upload cover videos to Facebook and Instagram, and you won't get them ripped down, hopefully, unless they choose to, because the thing is like, again, remember the options that they provided to the publishers for YouTube videos, same kind of thing. They give them the option. They say, do you want to make money on this? Yes, we'll place an ad on it. Or do you want us to rip it down? Because they still have the ability to take it down. They still, because unlike an audio-only release, with audio-only, you don't have to get permission. You just have to get a mechanical license. But with video, you do have to get permission. And how they say this permission, it's like after the fact permission. Like publishers will just say, yes, you can license anything in our catalog, except sometimes they withhold a few songs. So like I know when like Adele's album first came, like 25 came out, they didn't want covers of any of her songs on YouTube. And so they banned everything. So they're like, we don't want to make money on it. We're not allowing any covers. But then eventually they did. Okay. And I think, Shelly, what is the avenue to legally upload a cover video to Facebook? There's no avenue like We Are the Hits right now. You just do it. You just upload the video like you normally upload the video. And you can't monetize it yourself right now, but Facebook may choose to monetize it if they catch the cover song. And that's kind of how it works right now. But that, it could change tomorrow. This stuff is like changing very quickly. Okay. So most of us, I'm not going to, I think we all kind of understand how sync licensing works. We all understand what licensing companies are. That's Catch the Moon is a licensing company, but there's tons and tons of other licensing companies out there. They are the one-stop shops that they typically work with artists who also write their own songs, or producers who own all the stuff. They're not working with labels typically. They're working with artists, songwriters. And because the benefit of licensing companies is they're one-stop shops. A music supervisor comes to them, they can clear a song in 5 minutes. Because again, for video, you need permission for the composition. So who owns the composition? The songwriters and the publishers. And you need permission for the sound recording. And who owns the sound recording? The labels or the artists. So if you want to get a sync license, and let's say you're a music supervisor working on a TV show and you want to place your song, let's say they want to place a Beyonce song. If they want to place a Beyonce song and there's 5 songwriters, and this music supervisor would have to go to each of the songwriters' publishing companies, and let's say they each have a different publishing company. They would have to go to 5 publishing companies and get permission from all 5 publishers for each songwriter. And because that's just for the composition of the song, then on this side, they have to go to the label and get permission for the sound recording. Why music supervisors and ad agencies like working with sync licensing companies is because you don't have to go through all the mess of various publishing companies and labels and all that stuff. You literally email one person and you say, hey, I want to license this song. And they say, sure, go for it. Here, here's the rate. Yes, agreed, done. And that's it. So licensing companies, as we know, but I'm just going to just touch on it just so we're all on the same page. They take a percentage, typically 30 to 50%. Some take a little bit lower. I wouldn't work with one that takes anything more than 50%. I've seen licensing companies that take 20. And basically, they only get paid when you get paid. Okay. So Sound Exchange. Now let's dig into Sound Exchange. And where this gets confusing is performing rights organizations, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, SOCAN, PRS, or whatever the one is in your country. And if you don't know who your performing rights organization is, there's this Wikipedia article that lays out all the different countries' performing arts organizations. So whatever country you're in, you can find it. I'll post this here too, but you can there it is. Okay. Now, why this gets confusing is that, and why you're going to see here that you see Sound Exchange listed. And it's like, well, wait a minute. I thought it was totally different from performing arts organizations. Why this is confusing is that ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, SOCAN, PRS, most of these other ones, they're performing rights organizations for compositions. Remember, composition. Let me get back to this thing. Here we go, composition. Sound Exchange is a performing rights organization for the sound recording. So performing rights organizations like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, SOCAN, they work with songwriters and publishers, and they collect performance royalties for songwriters and publishers. Sound Exchange collects performance royalties for the song, what the sound recording earns for artists and labels. So we have to totally separate them. Sound Exchange is collecting your money for the sound recording. So in our Taylor Swift example, okay, Sam, let's say your song started to get played on Sirius XM satellite radio. Now, let's say it started to get spun a lot on satellite radio. The performance royalties that would be earned. Now, Taylor Swift wrote this song. Let's just say she's the only songwriter on this. Her performing rights organization, BMI, would collect all the performance royalties from your cover song on satellite radio and would pay her and her publisher, BMI. BMI collects this for the place because they collect for anywhere there's a public performance of their composition that they represent. Now, what Sound Exchange does is they collect the performance royalties for the sound recording. And who owns the sound recording? Well, you do, because you recorded it. So then Sound Exchange would pay you. And they used to, and here's where like Sound Exchange has been in the news a lot lately. And I've talked about it quite a bit because their biggest amount that they would pay out typically came from Pandora Radio. Because what Sound Exchange does is they collect for digital radio royalties, not terrestrial, not the radio in your car on the dial, like with the towers. Only digital radio, satellite, internet, any internet radio, iHeartRadio, any iHeartRadio station, any internet radio station. Sound Exchange collects for that. Now, any of these digital radio stations can opt out and do direct deals with the labels and the distributors or the artists. Now, that's what Pandora just did. Pandora no longer works, well, they still work with Sound Exchange a little bit, but because Pandora just became interactive, meaning they're like Spotify now, and they're like Apple Music, whereas Pandora used to only be radio. There's a big distinction in the law that's non-interactive or interactive. Now, interactive means you interact with it. That means you can choose your song. That's just a fancy word, interactive, interact, choose your song. Spotify, Apple Music, choose your song, that's it. Non-interactive means you can't choose your song. You cannot interact with it. Pandora Radio used to be non-interactive, meaning you can't choose your song. You could choose the artist station you wanted to listen to or whatever, but you could not interact. And so before, all the sound recording royalties were paid from Pandora to Sound Exchange, and then Sound Exchange paid labels and artists. And this is how it got split up. This is how Sound Exchange splits up their money. 50% to the copyright owner, the label, if you have a label, or that's you if you don't have a label. 45% to the featured artist, and 5% to backup musicians and session players if they're in the union. That's a huge caveat. So your backup players get paid 5% of all performance royalties, sound recording performance royalties, if they're in the union. And it was like a union job. So that it's good for like session players who are doing like major label sessions, because all those major label sessions, they require that all the session players are in the union. Okay. Now, back to Pandora and Sound Exchange. I was talking to artists who were making a boatload of money from Sound Exchange because they were getting lots of spins on Pandora. And for everybody who's overseas, and I keep talking about Pandora Radio and you don't know what it is, Pandora Radio is the most popular radio station in the US, in the States. It has 73 million users. I know we talked a lot about Pandora, I think last session or 2 sessions ago, and we were doing a lot of that stuff. But it's not available anywhere else outside the States. But now, and they used to pay all their money, all their sound recording royalties to Sound Exchange, but now that they're interactive, now that they're a streaming service competing with Spotify and Apple Music, they're paying most of those sound recording royalties down to the distributors. So whoever you use for distribution, that's who's going to pay you your Pandora royalties. You're still going to get a little bit of your Sound Exchange royalty, your Pandora royalties from Sound Exchange on the people who just use the radio service and just listen to you with the radio free tier. There's still a little bit of that that's coming. Okay. My wife gets a good amount of spins on Pandora, so should I be signing up for Sound Exchange then am I missing money once again? It's through CD Baby as digital distro. Yes, you should be signing up for Sound Exchange. Everybody should sign up for Sound Exchange. And then yes, thank you, Kaylee, for clarifying. Resound is Sound Exchange for Canadians. Exactly. So if you're in Canada, that's Resound. And if you're in the UK, that's PPL. And what the big difference is outside of the US, PPL and Resound will collect your sound recording royalties from the dial, from the terrestrial radio, from the towers, the radio you listen to on those in the old cars that don't have fancy systems built in with Pandora. The U.S. is weird. The states are weird that there's some old laws by big radio that they don't collect sound recording royalties for songs that get played on AM, FM radio. Doesn't make any sense. I don't agree with it. Nobody really agrees with it except radio stations. But that's just a weird U.S. thing. Whereas everywhere else in the world, you will get paid from your local sound recording performing rights organization. Okay. Radios with real buttons and dials to twist. Exactly, Robin. Okay. Does this all make sense up to this point? Sound exchange, resound, PPL. Okay. Great. Now, I want to go down. Did I miss any questions? No. Okay. Does Sound Exchange send a report, or do you have to go find it? Sound Exchange will send you reports when you sign up for them. So if you're going to sign up for Sound Exchange, Sound Exchange. Let's just do this right now. I'll just step you through this real quick, and I'll show you how it works. Again, if you're in Canada, you don't need to sign up for Sound Exchange. You sign up for Resound. Or if you're in the UK, you sign up for PPL, wherever you are. Okay. Now we're going to go artists and copyright owners. That's us. Register. Register online. And now it's going to ask you, let's just click here to start. Okay. Now, who are we? A performer, sound recording copyright owner, or both? Most of us are both. If you don't have a label that owns your recordings, you're both. If you are working with a label that owns your recordings, you're just performer. So that's what this is. Yes, you can do either. So if you have a label, you're performer. If you don't have a label and you distribute it through a digital distribution company, you're both. So we click both. Nope, yourself, both, save and continue. Oh, I'm at least 18 years old, save and continue. And then you go through this whole thing. And you just sign up, and they'll send you reports, and then you can log in, and you can check your stuff, and they'll send you let's get back to this. The internet connection is unstable. Is it? Okay.
Ari, you're muted.
Sorry. Okay, you can hear me now? Okay. Take two. The reason that YouTube doesn't go backwards is because the way that you generate money from YouTube is when ads are placed on the video, and they don't go retroactively because there were no ads on it, so there's no money being generated. Whereas on every other digital streaming platform, it's not based on ads on the actual song or video. It's based on just streaming numbers and the total revenue pot that they have. So the royalties are just broken down differently. So when you get a stream on Spotify or Apple Music or Pandora or on the radio, there's a whole pot of money. And then based on the number of streams that you get a fraction of that total pot of money. I don't agree with this system. I don't think that it's a smart system. I think you should get paid based on the people that are listening to your individual songs and how much they're paying for the service. So like if I pay $10 a month for Spotify and I only listen to Sam's songs for this month, he should get my full $10. But that's not how it works. If I pay $10 a month and I only listen to Sam's songs and I listen to it 1,000 times, he gets 1,000 songs divided by from the total number of songs and total number of plays rather, and total number of money. He gets a fraction of that. That's how the numbers work out. And that's just how it works. Okay. Are we still recording this session? I think it's still recording. Let me make sure.
Yeah, it says it is.
It is, right? Okay, good. Are you looking at my face or the screen? You see my face, right? My face. Okay. Let me go to the screen again. Do you see the screen? Okay. So what I want to do is show you this. Thank you. Okay. Let me see if I missed any questions. Oh, Chelsea said I had to fill out a very detailed spreadsheet, but I guess it was worth it. Also, I haven't heard anything since I signed up in 2017. Yeah, check-in with Sound Exchange. I usually check in about once or twice a year. They always change their stuff. And now, honestly, Sound Exchange isn't getting you as much money as they used to. When it was Pandora, when they were collecting from Pandora, there's not as much money being generated from just satellite radio, but it's worth doing it. Just, you don't want to leave any money sitting on the table. Okay. All right, so we're going to break this down a little bit more. As you can see, okay, artist royalties. Now we're going to go down to different things. Sound recording, digital performance royalties. We just talked about those. That's just a fancy way of saying these radio royalties for the artist, and they come from Sound Exchange. Now, these are what we're basically going to go down, and if there's any questions, just ask me to clarify. These are all the royalties that are generated for artists, not songwriters. We're going to get to that next, but this is just for artists. Artist royalties, sound recording royalties. Remember, artists record sound recordings, songwriters write compositions. Totally separate, two totally separate things. Okay. Download sales. This is actually iTunes just officially announced. We all knew this was coming, but they're going to be ending downloads shortly in the next few years. There will be no more iTunes download store. It'll just be Apple Music. So, but currently, if somebody downloads your song on iTunes, how do you get paid from that? Whoever you use to distribute the song to iTunes. So, you know, DistroKid, CD Baby, AOL Symphonic, STEM, whoever. And then somebody asked about Bandcamp. Not louder. This is outdated. I got to change this. Someone asked about Bandcamp in Facebook group. Bandcamp is totally separate from distributors. They're basically an artist self-managed store. So you can set up your own Bandcamp. And what's nice about Bandcamp is that whereas Apple iTunes takes 30% of the download. So if somebody downloads your song on iTunes, iTunes keeps 30 cents and sends the rest to your distributor. And whether your distributor takes money or not is based on the distributor, and then they send you the rest. Bandcamp, keeps 15%, half of what iTunes does and Apple and sends you the rest, 85%, and you sign up with Bandcamp directly. So your distributor does not send your music to Bandcamp. Yes, Robin, Bandcamp is more like a merch store. Exactly. You can actually sell merch. You can sell physical merch on Bandcamp now. So does Metro Lyrics really pay royalties? You can add your lyrics to Metro Lyrics, or no, Metro Lyrics. I'm thinking of, what was that? There used to be one that was powering the lyrics for Spotify before Genius. Maybe it was Metro Lyrics. It doesn't sound right. But not really. Are you going to get paid for your lyrics being displayed? I mean, they're striking deals with publishers, and no, this is not. It's not worth worrying about the getting paid from, like, they're displaying your lyrics or whatever. But yes, everyone can sign up for these lyric sites. So Bandcamp, there's another question about Bandcamp. I know John asked this in the group. He asked, and I don't think John's here. Are you here, John Agaki? I'm not pronouncing that right. You're here, right? I see a John here. Is that you, John? Here. Yes.
That's me.
Pronounce your last name for me again.
You had it right, Agaki.
Oh, great. Okay, I was right. Perfect. Where did you see, your question was something about $10 a month for Bandcamp? Is that right? Did you have a question about that?
Well, my question was, I have an unstable connection apparently, so hopefully you can hear me.
I gotcha.
Okay, good. I guess my question was, I pay $10 a month for the Pro, Bandcamp Pro, and I have a CD on there, and I've never had any sales or downloads. People will stream, but I'm not making any money that way. And so paying the $10 a month for not really having any income, all it really does is provide advertising. And then people can listen to the music, but so I don't know if it's wise to continue with that. I don't know whether it's a generational thing or whether, as you do, like, name your price for
right.
Whatever your music is. I have a set price for the CD and so much for the downloads.
Mm-hmm.
But
I gotcha.
might pay experiment and see if that changes the dynamic. But for that reason, I haven't put any more.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Yeah, so short answer is you don't need to be paying for Bandcamp Pro, $10 a month, if you're not really using all of their features. I've never paid for Bandcamp. That's why I was confused when you mentioned this $10 a month. I didn't even realize they had this Pro version. But this is what Bandcamp Pro is. So you get to batch upload. So if you're uploading, 100 songs to Bandcamp, you can just select them all and click upload versus having to go one by one. So if you're not doing that, okay, you don't need this. You can communicate directly with your fans, target messages. So if you have a lot of people downloading your stuff, this might be actually worthwhile.
Well, under the Pro, then you get to look at analytics, like who's listening to your.
Totally.
How if they listen to the entire track or just partially, or
right.
That's what you pay the extra money.
Yeah, totally. So if that's important to you, basically you're then just paying for stats. Yeah, I mean, okay, that could be helpful. So that's totally up to you. I mean, Honestly, what I love about Bandcamp is that everyone who downloads one of my songs, I get their email. So now they're ingested into my email platform, and I can continue to sell to them and communicate with them and invite them to shows and continue that relationship. Whereas when somebody downloads my song on iTunes or listens to me on Spotify, I don't get their email that way. Apple and Spotify aren't giving me any of that data. So it's like, if I would say this $10 a month is worth it when you're having, I would say probably hundreds of fans visiting your Bandcamp page a month, maybe. And until then, it's probably not worth it. If you're having like hundreds of people visiting your Bandcamp page and potentially downloading your songs. And what also I do really like about Bandcamp is that they can name their own price. And so it's almost like, instead of having to run a full-fledged crowdfunding campaign or a full-fledged pre-order campaign or anything like that, you can just say, I just came out with a new song. It's on Bandcamp, and what you can actually do, which is a nice idea, is you can offer it to your email subscribers first as a name your own price. So pay what you want. It can be $0, or you can set a minimum if you want, but I recommend just doing $0 and asking them to pay what you want, saying, hey, for being a subscriber, like, this is just for my people. This song is coming out next Friday, but now you can listen to it first, and you can listen to it here on Bandcamp. And if you want to download it or you want to support me, you can name your price and you can pay whatever you want for this. Thanks for your support. And you can send this to all of your fans directly. And why I like that is because fans and your supporters are always looking for a way to pay you. I know that sounds weird and that seems counterintuitive, but people who want to support you, they just don't know how. So as soon as you present a way for them to support you, they'll do it. Now, this gives a really seamless way for them to support you. I've had people pay me $20 for one song, downloading one song, because they're not paying $20 for the song. They're paying $20 to me because they just wanted to support me and they happen to, get a download of the song. Who knows if they even downloaded it or not. It's like, it's just a way to get people to support you. And so Bandcamp is a nice platform to be able to do that. It's like a Julianne, I had a $10 payment for a song once. Amazing. Totally. Somebody paid me, my mom, but still, it's great. Exactly. But even your supporters, want to support you, and you got to give them ways to do that. And that's like, Patreon, we've talked about extensively. That's a way that's ongoing. But Bandcamp is a one-time thing. So you can do a big campaign. You can say, hey, my new song is out. My new album is out, whatever. And be totally transparent. Say, if you listen to it on Spotify, awesome. I want you to listen how you want. I make less than a half a penny per stream. If you want to support me, though, head over to Bandcamp, pay whatever you want for my new album. I get 85% of that money. And they'll know that. Like, oh, perfect. You get 85% of that money. Okay, great. It's like, if you download it on iTunes, I get 70%. I've done that in the past. I mean, listen, I prefer you go to Bandcamp if you can do it. And then people will we'll do that. Okay, moving on. Streaming revenue, again, that gets paid from your distributor. However, you got your song onto Spotify and Apple Music, they pay you. YouTube sound recording revenue, which we were just talking about. Just like we were mentioning, now this is under the artist royalties that we were talking about. Every sync license, every time you want to get a song synced to a TV show, an ad, a movie, whatever, there are two licenses technically. There's the master use license for the sound recording, and there is the sync license for the composition. They need permission for both. Now, if you wrote the song and you don't have a publisher, you can negotiate the sync license. And if you release the song, recorded it and released it, and you don't have a label, you can negotiate the master use license. Now, where this gets confusing is because most of the times when Kathy's talking about it, and when most music supervisors are talking about it, they say all in. That's the all-in price. They say we have $30,000 all in. That's typically broken down to be $15,000 for master use, $15,000 for sync license. It's usually just you cut it in half. Half that all-in license fee goes to the artist and the label. Half of that goes to the songwriter and the publisher. If you're all one, and if you work with a sync licensing company and you're all one, that's just the check, and it all comes to you. Okay. Sometimes, if you get songs on ads, they'll let you know that this is going to be, and if they're using your singing in it, you can collect SAG royalties. Now, it's going to only be for union commercials, and they'll typically tell you up front if SAG royalties will be paid. Now, most union commercials will do this, and you can make a good amount of money with this. You don't even need to be a SAG member, to be honest. You just have to let SAG know that you exist. I was collecting SAG royalties before I was a SAG member because they were airing some of the stuff. Okay. Let's see.
Well, can you talk more about that? Because that's been a real blink spot in Kathy's classes.
What's that? The SAG royalties?
Yes. How do you let them know, etc.?
Sure. So if you get a sync on in an ad for a TV commercial, when you're negotiating the sync license, so your sync licensing company, typically that ad agency will tell you if it's a union commercial and if it's following the SAG-AFTRA rules of this. So if it's a non-union commercial, they're not going to pay these SAG royalties. But typically they'll tell you if they're going to be paying SAG royalties. A lot of time, Christina, does this apply to TV and film? Yes and no. The way that it works, the way that SAG royalties work is the first airing and the first showing doesn't generate royalties. It's only on a replay. It's only on a rerun. So if it's just a TV show that airs once and it never reruns, no, there are no royalties generated for that. But that's why this really works for commercials, because they rerun that all the time. You know, most commercials don't just play once unless it's like a Super Bowl ad. Then you wouldn't get any SAG royalties from that. But every rerun is when they pay these royalties. So, okay, how you collect these? Basically, so let's say you get a song placed in a commercial, and they are a union commercial. You can literally call SAG and let them know that there's this commercial running, and saying that you have a song in the commercial, and you want to make sure that they have your updated information on file so you can get your check sent to you. And you can see if you have any outstanding money right here. Oh no, they changed their website. Let's see here. Let's see if the SAG-AFTRA fund is still available. Oh, here we go. They just changed the link. Okay. Do we have royalties for you? Here's the link. You can check if you've had stuff on TV. It's afmsagaftrafund.org, and sound recording division. This is the audio visual. And this is musicians and vocalists on motion picture and television programs exhibit specific foreign market. Let's check it out. And you can see featured artists. Underscore of a film or television program, the conductor or any soloist identified in the credits, and crawl or otherwise acknowledged as a primary soloist. Sound recordings licensed for use in a motion picture or television production, the feature or commercial. The featured artist is a royalty artist, headliner, or artist associated with a particular sound recording. And it says royalties for featured artists are based on a pro rata share of the actual time that the performance are utilized in the total score. The royalties earned by Underscore sound recordings are based on the ratio of actual minutes versus the sound recording minutes. 4 shares are provided to each featured artist. On an Underscore, 60% of the available royalties are distributed to featured artists and sound recordings. 40% the available royalties are distributed to non-featured artists for the sound recordings. Okay, so you're not automatically signed up for SAG. You don't need to sign up for SAG. You actually can't sign up for SAG unless you're eligible. However, you can get paid from SAG if your song falls into this category. It's a little confusing because it's like, okay. SAG needs, so these royalties will be generated for every performer in a commercial. If it's a union commercial, whether you're on screen as an actor, whether you're the voiceover actor saying, you know, go to McDonald's and get the new Big Mac, that's a voiceover. And your song, if you're singing lyrics, that's technically like a voiceover. And so you're generating royalties that way, just like the voiceover actor is. So how you get them is you have to call SAG and let them know that you exist and how to pay you, and they'll look it up. And so here's the unclaimed royalty section. So these are the people that have never signed up for SAG. And they're just like, we have royalties for you and we don't know how to pay you. So that's what this is. There's a lot of people here. If you know any of these people, tell them to contact SAG because they have money for them. Unclaimed royalties. Now, wasn't that the website that I was just... why didn't that link work? I'll have to change this link. Unclaimed royalties - sound recording. Oh, they just took out the SR. Okay. Here's the unclaimed royalties website. Yeah, that's a lot of people. We're still only on A's, and I'm just scrolling endlessly right now. Okay. Oh, that was just A. That's a lot of people that were on the soundtrack or had a song in a commercial or whatever, and you can go every alphabet. So actually, let's just make sure I'm not one of them. No. Okay, good. Let's see if Kathy is. Carol Heller, Ben Heller, David Heller, JJ Heller. Nope. Okay. Well, that's good. So you can have some fun on this website and look up your friends and see if they have unclaimed royalties. So, okay. Let's go. Does that make sense? Oh, Chelsea, and then do you become eligible for SAG after enough of your stuff is used? I know you need a certain amount of, okay. Here's the thing with SAG. Now, I learned about this because when I was doing a lot of acting, I had to learn this shit. There are, I think 3 ways that you can join SAG. And it is a pay stub from a union job as an actor. So as a principal actor, meaning you acted in a movie or TV show or commercial, it was union, and you got paid from it. You can show up to SAG offices with this pay stub and like, okay, you're in. Now, technically that production isn't supposed to allow you to be in that production if you're not in SAG, or they have to pay a penalty and they can Taft-Hartley you in is what they call it. And they pay a fine and a fee and to use you because they're only supposed to be using SAG actors. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to be like an extra on set as an actor. But since we're talking music, the way that you would join is basically if you get well, I mean, to be honest, like, you don't really need to be in SAG unless you're scoring a lot of music, because if they're going to use your song and you're not in SAG, they'll pay a penalty for this to use your song, and then you'll still get paid from SAG. And you can then join if you want, but you don't really want to join because it costs $3,000 to join SAG. It's not, I mean, it's a lot of money. That's upfront. You have to pay to just join SAG. Nobody wants to join because of that fee. They just want to get paid from SAG. So I held out on joining as long as I could. I was receiving SAG checks before I was actually in SAG. I would get these checks because I acted in a show and I got SAG royalties from the show, and I wasn't in SAG yet. Now, the reason I joined SAG, I had to, was I booked a commercial, and the commercial said, we're not allowing you on set unless you join SAG. You have to join. And so then I had to go to the SAG office with my pay stub from the other show I was in, and I had to sign up. So how big is the penalty? I'm not sure what it is. But SAG, honestly, if you have more questions about SAG, they're really good about taking your calls and answering your questions. Like, whenever I've had questions, I've literally just called them up and they explain it. SAG-AFTRA. And you can call your local office, or you can just call the LA office, because they have offices all over the place. Contact us. You can call the general number here. Contracts department, other departments. Here's locals. Yeah, they have. So, you can check your state, and you can call your local office, or you can just call the general line here. This is the contact us link, but it's on sagaftra.org. So you can just go there and click that. And then, you can go through their FAQ and check that out. Too, because they're really good with that. Okay, back to the royalties. Songwriter. So we covered all the artist royalties. And I don't think I missed anyone's question. Okay. Composition, performance royalties. So, Katrina, I missed your question. Is Netflix considered television? Was that your question? Oh, no. Well, so will my performance royalties be paid to any labels I've released songs on since they distributed it? I recently registered with Song Trust for all of my compositions, but a little confused on how I get performance royalties since 2 albums I've guested on were released on labels from Mexico and Canada. My recent was on British level. Okay. Short answer, no. Your labels and your distributors don't collect performance royalties. Longer answer, okay. Yes and no. Here's how it works. Let's go back to this graph. So when we're just talking about sound recording performance royalties from Sound Exchange, let's go back to the Sound Exchange graph. So this is Sound Exchange. So to clarify, sound recording performance royalties and composition performance royalties are totally different. So we have to remember, sound recording performance royalties are for artists and labels. Composition performance royalties are for publishers and songwriters. So back to this graph here, if your song is played on the radio, and you own the recording, it's your recording, and let's say it's with a label. The label gets 50% of that money, and the artist gets, all the artists basically get 50% of that money. So the backup artists get 5%, and the featured artists, which you would be the featured artists, get 45% of that money. Now, that's what we were talking about, going to Sound Exchange and signing up. So what your label would do is they would sign up as a sound recording copyright owner because they own the sound recording. So they would do this. We're signing up here, and you would do I'm the performer. So Sound Exchange would pay you directly as the performer, and they would pay your label directly as the sound recording owner, copyright owner. And then based on your deal with your label is what they would pay you, what is earned from these royalties. Now, if we're talking composition performance royalties, that's what ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, PRS, SOCAN, they collect. That's the composition performance royalties for the songwriters and the publishers. So that's when we're going back to our chart here, when we're talking songwriter royalties, that's what these are. Does that make sense? And okay, mention Pandora paying to the distributor, correct. Pandora, now those are streaming royalties. So these royalties, I want to go back to, let me clarify, that's a good question. So we're going to go back to the artist royalties on this chart here. Artist royalties. So those are interactive streaming revenue, different from sound recording digital performance royalties. It seems like the same, but it's different because interactive streaming services like interactive streaming services are Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, Alexa, Echo, whatever. And now Pandora has just become an interactive streaming service. So that's why it's confusing, is because Pandora used to just be radio, and now it's not just radio. Now it also has, now they're just like Spotify. So just like Spotify's paying your distributor, Pandora is now paying your distributor. And so those monies, and they're paying it for this money right here, this interactive streaming revenue. Now, the sound recording digital performance royalties, that is from radio. So satellite radio, if you're anywhere else in the world, not the US, that's from the dial radio, that kind of stuff. So yeah, hopefully that clarifies that. Yes, Spotify and Pandora are paying your label. So based on the deal that you have with your label, you should be getting regular reports from your label, not based on the deal, period. You should be getting regular reports from your label. Based on the deal that you have with your label is how much they're going to pay you. But most labels now, well, I shouldn't say most labels. Labels should provide you with a portal to like log in and just see what's happening online. You can see all your breakdowns. I know some of them haven't done that yet, and that they're super behind. That's why, we're kind of like, even most of the distributors have this portal. You log in, you see your analytics on the back end, whether it's, and some are better than others. CD Baby's analytics, TuneCore's analytics, excellent. AWOL, excellent. STEM, excellent reports and analytics. You can see where every stream comes from, what every penny comes from. DistroKid's analytics, not so great. Very difficult to understand. And they just break it down by like line by line by line by line, and they don't really give you many analytics. I've been on Philip in DistroKid about this. I love them otherwise. I'm like, guys, your reports and analytics are behind the curve. A lot of labels' reports and analytics are behind the curve, and they should show you where all that money's coming from. So based on your deal with your label, you'll get paid whatever that deal is. And is Netflix considered television? That's a really, really good question. And I know this came up in the class because somebody, I think it was, I don't remember who it was actually. It was a Bronwyn or somebody had a sync in a Netflix show. And they were trying to get her to sign. It was Bronwyn. Okay, yeah. Thank you. And they're saying that Netflix was paying $10,000 up front, but they had to sign that they were giving up the rights, their performance rights or performance royalties. Sam, I have one coming up in 2019. So I'm assuming it's the same kind of deal. They had you sign, which they're having everybody sign, I believe, where they'll pay you more up front, but then you're not going to get performance royalties on the back end because they're not dealing with that. What's the show, Sam? Or can you say?
No, I can say, but it's not, the paperwork hasn't gone through yet. So it's one of those things, you know, you can tell the moment I hear it, like on the show, then I'll be like, okay, there it is. But it's a show that's being filmed in Jordan. So the show is in Arabic, and it's called Jinn. So I worked with a co-writer, and it's all the lyrics are in Arabic. So I made the track sheet top line to him. So it's all original music. And I did three songs for them. And so, but it's so weird, that kind of stuff, because again, you have a music supervisor and he's playing middleman, and you say, okay, they like them, they're in, but you know, again, I haven't seen paperwork, and the show hasn't even been filmed yet. They're in pre-production. So it seems so far down the road, but.
Okay. And have they worked out the deal with you? Or are they just going to pay you? You haven't seen the contracts yet, right? I haven't seen
any of it yet. I just sent them the songs like a week or two ago, and they're like, this sounds great. Thumbs up. We're passing it through. So
awesome.
We'll see.
Cool. Well, fingers crossed. It all goes through. That's awesome. That's great. So what I've heard for most Netflix shows are that they're paying more than the market rate up front because they're not paying performance royalties on the back end, which honestly is a fine deal by me, because you don't have to wait for those extra performance royalties, and they're paying more up front. Performance royalties vary based on, you know, the network, how many people are watching it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've had songs on little like reality, MTV, VH1, Bravo, True TV, Discovery Channel, you know, all those little things. And I would say each placement got me like, I don't know, $300 to $400 and back end performance royalties, versus like bigger drama cable network or cable shows would get like $2,000 to $3,000. And then like bigger network primetime shows would earn more, maybe $5,000 in the back end. But that's, you know, that's over the course of like 2 years. And then if it gets rerun, you'll make more royalties that way every time it gets rerun. But the performance royalties are so delayed. So sometimes you'll get paid 9 months to 18 months, 2 years after the fact. So it's kind of annoying. And let's see. Okay. John, hi, Ari. I was on a national radio show stage performing my own song. I was also filmed. I was given a copy of the video of me playing with the backup band. I wanted to use the audio on my next CD. Do I need a master sync agreement from them to use my song on my CD? Does that cover the backup musicians, or do you need separate agreements with them? My performance was also filmed privately too. Okay, great question. Honestly, all you should do is just send them an email and say, hey, I want to release this song on my CD. Is that okay? And if they say, yep, no problem, boom, you just got the license. You just got the rights to do it, because technically, if it hasn't been worked out, they own that recording if it hasn't really been talked about or worked out. So just ask them if you'd be like, hey, I just want to put this on my CD. Is that cool? And they'll most likely say, oh yeah, of course, it was great. You know, that kind of a thing. It doesn't need to be a whole hairy, complicated deal. If you get their permission, then you're fine. And then Katrina, Sound Exchange will Sound Exchange pay my performance royalties from the sync on Netflix from last year? No. So Sound Exchange actually is only for radio. And it's only digital. It's only Sound Exchange is only digital radio and audio only radio, not anything visual. Sound Exchange doesn't collect visual. It's confusing because on the composition performance royalties, like ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, they do collect from TV shows, not Netflix, because Netflix has a carve-out deal, but all the other TV shows, all the networks have deals with the composition performing rights organizations. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, they all have deals with all the networks, and they pay performance royalties. So on the sound recording performance royalties, like Sound Exchange actually is only for digital radio, and that's why it's a little confusing. And unfortunately, in the US, we don't have a sound recording performing rights organization like an ASCAP BMI that does everything. That's just something we don't really have. So it would just be the upfront fee that you're getting that they negotiate upfront when they want to use your song in the program. That's what you're getting for that sound recording royalties. It's great questions, but that's what's confusing. Okay. I think I got everybody's questions answered so far. Let me go back to that chart just so I can bang through it. And then we'll just get the questions at the end here. Okay, we talked about interactive streaming revenue, YouTube sound recording revenue. We talked about that. Master use license. Oh no, we already did artists. We're on songwriter royalties. Where are we? Here we go. Songwriter royalties. Composition performance royalties that we just talked about. That ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, PRS, SOCAN. Somebody asked this in the Facebook group. They asked, actually, I want to get that question. Where is it? Julie asked, Julie Wright, I'm confused about collecting royalties from live performances. Should I be telling ASCAP about every time I play one of my songs at an open mic? The answer is yes. You should be telling ASCAP every time you play a song anywhere. Technically, every venue that has music needs a performance license from the performing rights organizations, whether it's a bar, restaurant, an arena, a club, a theater, coffee shop, whatever. They all need licenses, unless the only exception is if they are either only playing music that has been given to them directly by songwriters saying you have permission to play this, just like Netflix is doing it, going around the PROs and getting permission from every single rights owner. Some venues do this, and they make the artist sign a contract basically before they step on stage saying that they're not going to play any covers and that they will only be playing originals, and that they and you have permission to play your own originals. That's actually in the laws, that you have permission to play your own originals without a license. So very few venues do this, but you may see this deal if you're playing a venue. Now, the question though, how do you get paid from this? ASCAP, BMI, they all have this. Each one calls it a little bit different, something different name, but you log into the back end of your performing rights organization, whether it's ASCAP or BMI or CSAC or whomever, and it's like there's a section in there. I think it's called ASCAP on stage. I think it's BMI Live or the other way around. Everyone has their own program, and you literally just log in. You put the venue name, your set list. You can put your whole set list and how many people were there, and then they calculate it. Now, SOCAN, Robin says admission price needs to be $6. Okay, I don't actually know what That very well could be. They do ask what the admission price was, what the ticket price was. I don't know what the restrictions are. It doesn't make sense to me that the ticket price comes into play just because they need the performance license anyways. But maybe if they're not charging tickets, the PRO negotiates a lower rate or something, and so they just don't have enough money to pay, or I don't know. They'll each one has it worked out differently. But you would report for concerts that already happened. So honestly, what you could do, I think there's like a 9-month window. So you could do like each PRO has a different timeline. But what you could do is maybe put on your calendar twice a year, spend a day, pick 2 Sundays a year where you're gonna and you're going to go in and you're going to register all the shows that you've played up until that point. Now, if you're on tour and you're playing hundreds of shows or whatever, it's much better to just do it maybe every week, or and do it every week when you're on tour. It's going to work out to be, depending on the venue size, $10 to $20 a show that you're going to make. So, if you're playing 200 shows, that's $2,000 extra dollars. That's pretty good. If you're playing 20 shows, okay, that's $200 extra dollars. It can be some decent money. You have to report within the quarter with ASCAP. Okay, so good. So maybe do it instead of twice a year, do it, make sure you do it every quarter. So do it 4 times a year. And check it right. Thanks for the info. Help us out. Oh, great. Bye, Ari. Okay. So yeah, check with your PRO. I don't know all the time windows. So, okay. Carrie says with ASCAP, it's, every quarter. Others might be different. So, yeah, check with it. So maybe, you do it, set it on your calendar 4 times a year, every quarter. So just check with your PRO what that's going to be. Okay. Oopsies. Okay, mechanical royalties. So mechanical royalties are generated from, now these are, remember, we're still under songwriter royalties. So everything that we're going to talk about right now is songwriter. Mechanical royalties are generated from streams. That's what we talked about when songwriters got a raise. I keep talking about. If you haven't heard about this, I wrote about it, and you can read about it here. It's on Ari's Take. If you're watching this replay and you can't see the chat window, go to aristake.com and you can actually search songwriters, but it's the 3rd article that's right there. And it's going from 10.5% of the revenue up. It's now going to be 15% over the next few years. I think. Where does it say that? Yeah. Okay, so the question was, how do you get your mechanical royalties? Mechanical royalties come from streams and downloads. Interactive streams. Remember what interactive is? Non-radio. Interactive. You can choose the song. Spotify, Apple Music, that kind of stuff. How do you get paid? Your admin publishing company. So Song Trust, Audium collects mechanical royalties, Cobalt. And Christina says, can you do Song Trust and switch to Cobalt? Absolutely. Yes. You can always switch your publishing company. Now, your admin publishing company. There are terms, like term deals, like timelines. So you can't just switch on a whim. I believe CD Baby Pro Publishing is like a 1-year term. I think TuneCore Publishing is similarly 1 year and it renews every year. Song Trust, I think, is a year term, but it renews every year. So, you know, you have to cancel when that year comes around sometimes. Some of them will cancel differently. Or if you're signed to a publishing company, publishing companies are a little different because they typically will, if it's an exclusive publishing deal, they'll typically own that copyright. And so oftentimes you don't get those rights back. But since most of us aren't signing to exclusive publishing deals, you can switch from Songtrust to Cobalt. Absolutely. You just have to do it at the end of the term. Okay. YouTube performance royalties, the same thing, performance royalties from your PRO. Composition royalties, this is what we were talking about before. But if you wrote the song, your admin publishing company will help you collect those. A sync license, we just talked about that before. Now this is the upfront fee. So before we were saying every sync has 2 licenses, the master use for the artist and the label, and the sync license for the songwriter publisher. So the sync license is for the composition, and they have to negotiate this. This is negotiated, whereas mechanical royalty rate is set by the government, and that's why they got a raise, you know, and why I put a picture of the Capitol is because they changed, this rate is set by the U.S. Copyright Royalty Board, at least in the States, obviously not worldwide. But sync licenses are all negotiated. Okay, so these are all the royalties. We just went through them all. I hope it was less complicated when I'm talking them through than this whole daunting article in my chapter 13 in the book. It can be very confusing when we're not talking it through. I know. I've spent a lot of time trying to figure this all out and understand it all. But yeah, any other questions? Final questions?
Thank you so much. Your big brain is so appreciated.
My pleasure.
You did such a good session. I just got one question. I hope it's not too left field, but
sure.
For co-writing situations, when we're selling independently, off of our own websites or off of Bandcamp, can you just go over it one more time, because I'm kind of slow, about how we should pay out our co-writers, assuming that we're controlling the song and we want to follow the proper royalty etiquette?
That's a great question. So how it works, technically per download or sale, whether it's a vinyl record, a CD, a cassette tape, or a download, they're all the same. Technically in the States, the mechanical royalty rate is 9.1 cents. That's going up also. They haven't revealed how much it's going up. But technically it's still 9.1 cents. It will go up. Let's just round it off and say it's 10 cents because it's going to go up a little bit. So if the song is downloaded for $1, technically 10 cents goes to the songwriters, the publisher. Now, if it's on iTunes, everywhere else in the world, how this works is iTunes takes out that 10 cents and they send it to the local collections agencies everywhere in the world, except the US. The US is weird. They pass all that through to iTunes just pays the distributor that 10 cents. And then it's up to the distributor to pay the label or the artist, and it's up to the label or the artist to pay that 10 cents out to the songwriters or the publishers. That's why when you record a cover song, you have to get that license and you register with your distributor saying, this is a cover song. And so then they can pay the 10 cents per download to that publisher. Now, if you're selling it on Bandcamp, you're not going through a distributor, you're not getting a license because you wrote the song. If you have co-writers, you'd split that however many co-writers you have. You sell a song for $1 on Bandcamp. How this works is you should take off 10 cents. And if there's 2 songwriters, you split that equally. So one songwriter get 5 cents, the other songwriter get 5 cents, and then you keep that the rest of it. So okay, let's say let's break this down. Bandcamp, you sell a song for $1. Bandcamp takes 15 cents. They take 15%. And now they send you 85 cents for that song. Now, 10 cents of that, because the mechanical royalty rate is set. It's not a percentage for downloads like it is for streaming. It's set. It's currently 9.1 cents. We're rounding up to 10 cents right now. So you pay 10 cents. Now, this is same if whether iTunes is taking their 30 cents, Bandcamp is taking 15 cents, whatever they send you, even if your label takes 50 cents, 10 cents doesn't change. That still goes to the songwriters. So, whether you sell the song on your website and you get 100%, you get $1, they pay $1, you get $1. Or you sell it on Bandcamp and you get 85 cents, or you sell it on iTunes and you get 70 cents, that 10 cents still goes to the songwriters. So if there are two songwriters, you take 5 cents, that songwriter gets 5 cents, and then you take 5 cents and that song gets 5 cents. Now, a kind of an interesting thing, one of the only distributors who will pay this money for original songs to your collaborators, to your co-writers, is STEM. Actually, they're the only one. So someone was asking about STEM earlier. If you sell downloads through STEM on iTunes of original music and you have co-writers, STEM will pay that 10 cents out to your collaborators. Sam, great question. DistroKid, not quite, because DistroKid, they are paying... they pay your collaborators, but I don't think, actually, you know what? That's a good question. I don't think, last I talked to Philip, they weren't paying mechanical royalties, and they didn't have a system worked out that way. They just started taking the songwriter information and submitting that, and they have the collaborators thing. Let's look this up. I'm actually curious. DistroKid, what do they call it?
Yeah, can you talk about the difference between a master split? Because with a master split, it looks like on DistroKid, you put them in.
That's how they do it.
As a half rights owner.
Right. So DistroKid is only paying on the sound recording royalties because they don't get sent the money. They don't get sent mechanical royalties. So remember before, oh wait, let me share my screen with you here. Okay. So, so before when we were talking about the interactive streaming revenue for artists, this is what gets passed to the distributor. And this is just the sound recording revenue for artists. Now, the mechanical royalties, which come from songwriters, mechanical royalties, how to get paid, not by your distributor, because you may have written a song and you didn't distribute it. So, or you didn't release it. You could just be the songwriter, or I covered your song and I released it or whatever. That's why these mechanical royalties are paid by your publishing company. Now, what I'm mentioning with this, what STEM is doing, if you, this, I know STEM is doing this, so I'm certain about this because I had this conversation with them. I'm not certain DistroKid is doing this, and honestly, I don't think DistroKid is doing this because this is an oversight on them, but I'm going to double check on it. What STEM is doing is, well, STEM only distributes original music. They don't even do covers. So what STEM is doing is they will distribute your original song, and if you co-wrote it with somebody, you say, I co-wrote it with Carrie. And you put in Carrie's information. And then STEM will every download that comes in, because from the US, remember, in the States, iTunes passes off all the download mechanical royalties to the distributor. So then STEM gets all this download money, and they get 70 cents directly from iTunes. because iTunes takes 30 cents, they pass off 70 cents in the US, only in the US. And STEM gets this money and they say, okay, I have 70 cents here. Now, what do I do with this? Well, these are all original songs by our artists who submitted them. They wrote the songs, but let's go down and see if there are any co-writers. Oh, this song has 2 writers. Okay, well, of the 70 cents that we received, 10 cents is owed to these songwriters for the mechanical royalties. Now we are going to split that up and pay these 2 writers. STEM's only doing that. Same with what we just talked about with Bandcamp, but DistroKid, they will pay your collaborators who you designate. And actually, okay, this is how you would do it. You would just have to manually designate how much they're getting. It's just a little bit more complicated because, yeah, okay, this is why they don't do it and why it's very complicated in DistroKid. What DistroKid is doing, I just figured it out. They're splitting a percentage of all the money that comes in to your collaborators. So you say, my producer gets 20%, my band member gets 30%, and this person gets 10%, I get the rest, 50% or whatever. I missed the math. Now, what STEM is doing and what you would be doing, those mechanical royalties for downloads, again, are only paid to the distributor for US downloads. All the money that comes in from overseas is still being sent to DistroKid, but not the mechanical royalties. So if a song gets downloaded in Germany, iTunes takes about 10%. The mechanical royalty rate is very similar all over the world. So they take about 10%, and they don't send it to DistroKid. They send it over here. They say, hey, collections company, mechanical collections company, this money's owed to you. Here's your 10 cents. And then they send the rest, the 60 cents, to DistroKid or STEM or whoever. And now DistroKid is like, oh, I have 60 cents. Okay, who do I pay? Oh, okay, 10% or 20% goes to this producer, 10% goes to you, 10% goes to you, 30% goes to you, and they pay that out. Now, if you wrote, oh, 10% or 50% goes to my co-writer, that's not correct, unless you want to do that, but that's not really how songwriter royalties are broken down, because that songwriter would get that 10 cents that's way over here in Germany's collections company through their admin publishing company. And to clarify, these are mechanical royalties, and you get it from your admin publishing company. So again, everywhere in the world except the US, when there's a song downloaded on iTunes or anything, Amazon, Google Play, they take off the top, the mechanical royalties, and they give it to the collections agency. That's just every country has their own collections agency. So all this money's sitting there, waiting. It's just waiting. It's waiting for a publisher to come and claim it. So that's why you need an admin publishing company to go claim that money that's sitting here for those downloads. Now, but US downloads are different. US, they pay you all of this. They don't send it to a collections agency. iTunes just pays all of it to the distributor. STEM knows this. STEM's like, okay, if there are co-writers, we'll pay that 10 cents out. DistroKid isn't doing that, I don't believe, because, yeah. Okay. Sam, so I just split a song, DistroKid, with a singer on my label. I'm also 50% co-writer, so will that half a penny, or no, 0.5 cent, I think you're meaning 5 cents, a download go to ASCAP, my PRO, for which the song? Not ASCAP, because ASCAP collects performance royalties. Let me go back to this chart here. Let's find performance. Performance royalties come from radio, interactive, non-interactive services. Right. But ASCAP's rate is not the 10 cents. That's just the mechanical royalty rate. ASCAP will pay something else for Spotify it's not the 10 cents. They have their own complicated formula, and they'll send you checks for that. They will pay you for it. But that's what you register in ASCAP, saying you own 50% of the song if you co-wrote it. And then ASCAP will pay you 50% of all the money that is earned for that song. The mechanical royalty rate, that's the rate that's set. That's the 10 cents rate. So that's the only rate that's actually set. The ASCAP rate, the performance royalty rate, that's handled by your PRO. And so you don't have to worry about that. And then remember, Sound Exchange is not for songwriters, only for artists, just to clarify. Sound Exchange is all the way at the top of this page. Artist royalties. Where is that? Artist royalties.
So I guess I'm still confused then about so with DistroKid, is that 9.1 cents going to, so it is going to them? So DistroKid gets that? They're just not splitting and designating that? Or where is that 9.1 cents going, I guess, is my question.
Great question. All of the mechanical royalties generated from the download or the stream are going to collections companies all over the world, except a download that is done in the US. So every stream, whether it's in the US or worldwide, every stream on Spotify or Apple Music or any of the streaming services, and every download, those mechanical royalties get paid from Spotify, from iTunes, from Apple, from wherever, to collections companies or directly to publishers. And then you need a publisher to get those mechanical royalties, or an admin publisher, like a Song Trust or something. The only exception is when somebody downloads your song in the US from iTunes US. And if somebody downloads your song in the US on iTunes US, then that's the only instance that a mechanical royalty is sent to your distributor. All the other mechanical royalties that are generated from all the streams, from downloads, everywhere else but the States, the only way to get those mechanical royalties are through your publisher. The only exception is your downloads in the US, and that money is sent to your distributor. So let's say you sell 100 downloads in the US. You multiply 100 times 9.1, so it's, or 9.1 cents. So let's just say 10 cents. So you multiply 100 by 10 cents, so you earn $10, right? Yeah, $10. So you sell 100 downloads. The songwriter in the US, the songwriters now have $10 to split. If you sell 1,000 downloads in the US, you have $100 to split. Make sense? And you kind of have to do those own calculations on your own.
Okay,
but again, only US download.
What if you are your own publisher then? So you don't have a publishing company. So all the other stuff. So if that money you said is going out there and is sitting in some collections account, and if you have a publisher, their job would be to go get that for you and make sure it gets to you. But if your own publisher, how do you go about getting the mechanical royalties?
There's an easy way and there's a hard way. The easy way is sign up with an admin publishing company and give them the 10 to 15%. That's the easy way. The hard way is learn 80 different languages and call up 80 different collections agencies and speak their language and say, hello, pay me my money in their language, their native tongue. That's the hard way. It can be done. People do it. It's challenging and very time consuming. I don't recommend it. But that's how it's done. So I never say to do that because that's impossible. It's not impossible, but it really is not feasible. So I would just say register with an admin publishing company and let them take their percentage. It's worth not having to learn 80 different languages or whatever. What are the best companies to go through to get those then? Song Trust. I say Song Trust is probably the best. TuneCore Publishing, but they're restrictive of sync, so I wouldn't recommend them. Or that's open to all. If you just want to go get that money, Song Trust is fine. Costs $100, so you have to calculate: do you have more than $100 in royalties sitting out there? Cobalt is much better. Yeah, Chelsea, I'm not happy with TuneCore. I switched from TuneCore years ago when they grandfathered everybody into their sync licensing restrictions. That's when I dipped. I'm like, that's a deal breaker for me. So yeah. So I left TuneCore Publishing years ago because when they first launched, they were legit and they weren't exclusive to sync. But then they decided to do sync licensing, and they said you have to do your sync licensing through us. And I'm like, but you're not pitching me. And they're like, yeah, well, doesn't matter. You have to do it through us. I'm like, yeah, but you have thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of songwriters. You're not going to pitch them. They're like, yeah, but you still have to do sync through us. I'm like, all right, I'm out. That's it. So yeah. Song Trust is cool. I dig them. I use Song Trust. If you can, I have a meeting with Cobalt next week. I'll let you know how that goes. But basically, Cobalt's great too, but they're very exclusive. They're like a publishing company, but they don't own your stuff. So Cobalt, it's actually K-O-B, but Cobalt is very exclusive. You have to be signed to Cobalt, and they only take you if you're actually already, I would say, and if you're not getting millions of streams, they're probably not going to sign you. Cobalt, they don't own your stuff like Song Trust, and I think they actually take the same amount as Song Trust. I think they take 15%, but they do a bit more. They do actually pitch you. So Cobalt has a very active, very robust sync licensing department, and they will pitch you. But they'll only sign you if they think that they can have success pitching you, and if you're getting millions of streams already, because otherwise it's just not worth it to them, because those calculations just don't work out unless there's serious money to collect. Okay, cool. Any other final questions? Great. All right, well, thanks, guys. Hopefully this was helpful, and I will see you next month, or I'll see you in the Facebook group. All right, peace.